Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshipper, lover, you leaving, causes no chaos and other despair, 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 causes no cares again 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 other despair, come yet again come.
Greetings and welcome to Beacon Unitarian Universalist Congregation. To our members, friends, and everyone joining us in our virtual congregation on YouTube today. I'm the Reverend Robin Landerman Zucker, minister of this congregation, and I will be hosting our virtual recorded service today for May 17th, 2020, with our music director, Gabriel Hernandez, our pianist, Rebecca Prizznick, and our worship associate, Char Tarashanti. This congregation is spiritually open and intentionally inclusive. Whoever you are and whomever you love, you are welcome here. Our members and friends bring many interests, theologies, and viewpoints. Here you can trust that you will find a common desire for meaningful community and spiritual growth and a relevant place for religious exploration. Membership in this congregation is open to anyone who chooses to walk with us in the spirit of love and in the search for truth. As I light the chalice, the symbol of our free faith, I invite you to light a chalice or candle at home and join me in the response words that will appear on your screen. We light this chalice with a flame that draws us together. With this flame, we cut through the darkness of isolation and are warmed by the fire of our inner connection. And now our opening words today are in honor of Islam and the festival of Ramadan, which is going on right now, and which is the topic of our service today. These words are called Come, Yet Again Come, the same phrase from Rumi that was in our introit sung by Gabe, and it's by Anne Slater, Come Yet Again Come. The Persian poet Rumi challenges us, come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving, ours is no caravan of despair, come, yet again, come. And we come from rich heritages of liturgy and pomp. We come from burning legacies of angry gods and threats of hellfire. We come just as we are. We come with exuberant and joyful hearts, eager to witness to others. We come bereft of the goodness of life, wondering, hesitant. We come just as we are. We come in the bloom of youth, ready to explore new truths. We come ready to sit apart from our children and be nourished for an hour. We come with gray in our hair and experiences to share. We come just as we are. We come to a place we never knew before was home. We come to a place that has been a home for many, for most of their lives. We come just as we are to join others as members of one family in this beloved home. Our hands and our hearts open and outstretched. we come, yet again come. And now Gabe will lead us in some congregational singing. Gabe?
Hello, please join me in singing When Our Heart is in a Holy Place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we trust the wisdom in each of us, every color, every creed and kind, and we see our faces in each other's eyes, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we tell our story from deep inside, and we listen with our loving mind, and we hear our voices in each other's words, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we share the silence of sacred space, and the God of our heart stirs within, and we feel the power of each other's faith, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place.
Now is the time in our service when members of our congregation are invited to share a personal joy or sorrow in the supportive fellowship of our community. We continue to share joys and sorrows during this time of virtual worship. And I will, as we do when we're together in the sanctuary, drop a stone into the bowl here for each of the joys and each of the sorrows. I want to drop a stone in sorrow and condolence and sympathy for my friend John, whose mother passed on the 14th at the age of 95 after a very long life. She was a fascinating person, full of love for her family, and we will miss her. A stone of joy for the birth of my granddaughter in Barcelona this week as well. Life and death are always so woven fine together, and it's wonderful to find some joy amid all of the concern and stress of our current situation in lockdown because of COVID-19. Of course, as I have done every week, I put a stone in the bowl for all of us who are living with this strange and stressful reality, particularly those who may have the virus, are recovering from the virus, have a friend or family member or coworker who's also been affected, for all of those who work in milieus, who are helping to care for those who are sick and their families. That's for them. For all of the joys and sorrows that we have that we don't speak, the joys and sorrows that we don't know about for those around the world, particularly if we are in a safe place and we don't have some of the worries that we know they have. This is for them. For all of the graduates who have missed out on the ceremonies, parties, and other events that would have marked an important transition in their life, we lift them up, we congratulate them, and this stone is for them. And for all the joys and sorrows that remain unspoken because they are too tender or too private to share, I drop this stone for them. Let us remember that everyone is fighting their own private battle. We know not what it is, but because we're human, we know it to be true. So let us be kind, compassionate, flexible, and forgiving with one another and with ourselves. Now I invite you to come into a quiet time with me, to put your feet on the floor and uncross your arms and put down any books or papers, your phone, anything you might be holding, and just join me in some intentional breathing. You close your eyes, breathe in 4 beats through your nose, and then 4 beats out through your mouth in a steady stream, creating openness, spaciousness, peace, and ease throughout your body, starting at the crown of your head and going down to your feet. Breathe and allow, create spaciousness. 4 beats in, 4 beats out. Let's just breathe. Breathe and allow. As you breathe, I offer these words by the poet Rumi. There is a candle in your heart, ready to be kindled. There is a void in your soul, ready to be filled. You feel it, don't you? You feel the separation from the beloved. Invite the beloved to fill you up. Embrace the fire. Remind those who tell you otherwise that love comes to you of its own accord, and the yearning for it cannot be learned in any temple. Let us be silent together. Breathe and allow.
Ocean breath breathing me. Ocean breath breathing me. Ocean breath breathing. Ocean breath breathing me. Ocean breath, breathing. Ocean breath, breathing. Ocean breath, ocean breath, breathing. Ocean breath, ocean breath, breathing. Ocean breath, breathing. Ocean breath, breathing.
Our sermon today is entitled The Rumi Prescription and the Sacred Heart of Islam. In one of his shortest poems, the 14th century Sufi poet Hafiz muses that the great religions are the ships, poets the lifeboats. Every sane person I know has jumped overboard. For nearly 2 decades now, a very large ship called Islam has sailed into the harbor of our lives and hooked onto the moorings of our collective national consciousness. The gangplank has been lowered for us to come aboard and look around, but the ship is so vast and complicated that we become easily lost between decks. We're not sure whether Muslims are primarily ordinary, devout people of peace and virtue, as our many Muslim neighbors demonstrate, and as Islamic councils suggest in widespread campaigns and press releases, or whether they're violent and vengeful fanatics like ISIS suicide bombers, Taliban marauders, or 9/11 hijackers. If they are both, then what is this great theological ship called Islam? And if we jump overboard onto one of Hafiz's lifeboats, what might we find in the poetic, mystical heart of this fascinating, ancient, and allegedly strident religion? In an editorial some years ago in the New York Times, the renowned and formerly condemned Muslim author Salman Rushdie noted that the difficulty that non-Muslims experience in sketching an accurate portrait of Islam can be located in the important distinction between a practicing Muslim and a radical Islamicist. As a starting point, one could argue that Islam, which means submission or surrender, defies modern Western conventional wisdom in that it collapses the barriers that many of us erect between inner life and public action, religion and politics, and between morality and daily existence. Despite the diversity of customs and practices, a basic commonality is provided by the overall structure of the Islamic religion. The fundamentals include belief that the Quran, the Muslim scripture, is the final revelation of God to humanity, dictated to his messenger Muhammad in the year 610. An adherence to Islamic law, or Sharia, which prescribes specific guidance about religious observance and daily life, everything from dietary restrictions to pet ownership to sexual practices. We've heard much about the fundamentalist edge of Sharia law since Ayatollah Khomeini led Iran in the 1980s. In the main, though, a faithful Muslim follows the 5 pillars of faith. These are: 1, affirming the oneness of God by reciting a creed known as the Shahada, turning towards Mecca and praying at 5 designated times daily. 3, paying alms or zakat to support the community. 4, undertaking a pilgrimage or Hajj to Mecca at least once during your lifetime. And 5, fasting from dawn to dusk during the holy month of Ramadan. Some call it the Muslim Lent, which began on April 23rd and will end on May 23rd. An Islamicist, on the other hand, is a member of an insidious, fanatical, and violent political movement who adheres to what Rushdie calls a mulch of belief. Just after 9/11, Rushdie mused about a paranoid, non-theological Islam in which the religion had been reduced in a half-examined way to a jumble of customs, opinions, and prejudices, such as the oppression of women, a loathing of modern Western society, and the prospect of leveraging terrorism for eternal life in a paradise crowded with compliant virgins serving up endless honey cakes. The hateful extremism that Rushdie sketches for us has alarmingly been one of the faster growing versions of Islam worldwide, with bloody warfare, burned out countries, and wanton terror as its modus operandi, and a refugee crisis of epic proportion as its byproduct. Some argue that Islamic regimes are becoming friendlier to democracy, an outcome few of us saw coming, with parties in Egypt, Tunisia, Morocco, winning the right to form governments in free elections. We've witnessed some unexpected Islamist vows to honor international treaties and some formerly unimaginable alliances coalescing between the West and the 50+ mostly nonviolent Islamic parties in the Middle East. Although it roars, this hardcore Islamicism speaks nothing of the personal, private faith of Muslims. It is all ego and no heart. It perverts the intended purity of sacred submission by crouching in stern obedience to a distant, punishing deity, rather than surrendering to the embrace of a sacred beloved. It is alienation rather than union. Yet deep in the sacred, mystical heart of Islam lies another truth, that despite the thousands of ways that it is hidden or cloaked or twisted or veiled in enchantments or perversions, the beloved presence dwells within, like a sweet melody within a hollow reed. Listen to the words of 13th century Persian poet Rumi, who is more popular today in translation than he was even in his own time.
Buoyancy by Rumi. Love has taken away my practices and filled me with poetry. I tried to keep quietly repeating, "No strength but yours," but I couldn't. I had to clap and sing. I used to be respectable and chaste and stable. But who can stand in this strong wind and remember those things? A mountain keeps an echo deep inside itself. That's how I hold your voice. I am scrap wood thrown in your fire and quickly reduced to smoke. I saw you and became empty. This emptiness, more beautiful than existence, it obliterates existence, and yet when it comes, existence thrives and creates more existence. The sky is blue. The world is a blind man squatting on the road. But whoever sees your emptiness sees beyond blue and beyond the blind man. A great soul hides like Muhammad or Jesus, moving through a crowd in a city where no one knows him. To praise is to praise how one surrenders to the emptiness. To praise the sun is to praise your own eyes. Praise the ocean. What we say, a little ship. So the sea journey goes on, and who knows where. Just to be held by the ocean is the best luck we could have. It's a total waking up. Why should we grieve that we've been sleeping? It doesn't matter how long we've been unconscious. We're groggy, but let the guilt go. Feel the motion of tenderness around you, the buoyancy.
I'm grateful to Char Tarashanti for presenting a sampling of the rich and exquisite works by Rumi, who, like his Persian contemporary Hafiz, stands among the great poets from the mystical tradition of Islam, known as Sufism. Of course, all religions have a heart and a mystical core, a place where merger or union with the sacred or beloved is the highest goal. These include the Kabbalah in Judaism, the contemplative practices of Christian ascetics like the Desert Fathers, the meditative foundations of Buddhism, and the devotional center of Hinduism. Within mysticism, including Sufism, we find a treasure trove of simple wisdom that we might apply to our own contemporary spiritual development and practice. But there is a catch. The willingness to confront and examine our egos and considering how they might be keeping us in exile from our hearts. The Sufis believe that the outward laws of Islam can only be realized spiritually on an inward path of devotion through prayer, chanting, whirling dance, poetry, and other mystical practices. For instance, during Ramadan, fasting is shallow unless it's embodied as an internalized prayer. Even in its most traditional form, Islamic prayer is considered a method for purifying the heart. Yet in Sufism, this drive to transcend separation and merge with the beloved is so intense and so intoxicating that Sufis often describe themselves as drunk with devotion. As Rumi declares, "Love has taken away my practices and filled me with poetry. I used to be respectable and chaste and stable. I am scrap wood thrown into your fire and reduced to smoke. I saw you and became empty." Don't you love his imagery of humankind's separation from its own divinity? "The sky is blue," he writes, "and the world is a blind man squatting on the road. But whoever sees your emptiness sees beyond the blue and beyond the blind man." Such intimacy with the divine, such enthusiastic submission may make you squirm a little bit. It certainly isn't how many of us would describe our relationship with the sacred, a surrender so complete that our identities melt away. Now, to be clear, I'm not advocating surrender to arbitrary religious rules or dogma or supplication before an omnipotent deity. Yet it may be helpful and even liberating for some of us Unitarian Universalists who reside more often than we might like in our heads to learn that this Sufi form of annihilation, or fana, is meant to lead to a revival, or baka, of the enhanced self. Union with the beloved isn't intended to destroy our natural capabilities, but fulfill them. It's a win-win situation, even for the most ardent humanist listening to me today. You see, a Sufi who has ripped away petty distractions and obscuring egotism to discover the divine presence at the heart of his or her own being experiences greater self-realization and self-control. We might call this empowered surrender. One becomes more fully human and is restored to the pure joy of being alive. As Rumi prescribes, it's a total waking up, To praise is to praise how one surrenders to the emptiness. The Taoist would characterize this process as surrender to the moment in order to enter fully into the natural flow of one's existence. This union, this exquisite surrender, brings an end to sadness through a reunion with the deeper self one is meant to be. The divine is not some sacred external judge to petition for mercy, as we find in some traditional Islamic prayers, but one with the ground of each person's being, part of us. In traditional Islamic prayers, we find transgressors perishing in a sea of sin. In contrast, Rumi reminds us that just to be held by the ocean is the best luck we can have. Does it surprise you then that in the 1830s, the Unitarian minister Ralph Waldo Emerson, along with Margaret Fuller and their fellow transcendentalists, relished the enthusiasm, the deeply loving God, and the intoxication of the senses they found in the Sufi poets? Hafiz had no peer, Emerson stated, although he strove for a similar type of union with the sacred as it lives and breathes within all existence in his own famed writings, such as The Oversoul. And like Rumi, he yearned to hear the whisper of the beloved that renders all talk worthless.
One Whisper of the Beloved by Rumi. Lovers share a sacred decree to seek the beloved. They roll head over heels, rushing toward the beautiful one like a torrent of water. In truth, everyone is a shadow of the beloved. Our seeking is his seeking. Our words are his words. At times, we flow toward the beloved like a dancing stream. At times, we are still water held in his pitcher. At times, we boil in a pot, turning to vapor. That is the job of the beloved. He breathes into my ear until my soul takes on his fragrance. He is the soul of my soul. How can I escape? But why would any soul in this world want to escape the beloved? He will melt your pride, making you thin as a strand of hair. Yet do not trade, even for both worlds, one strand of his hair. We search for him here and there while looking right at him. Sitting by his side, we ask, "Oh, beloved, where is the beloved?" Enough of such questions. Let silence take you to the core of life. All your talk is worthless when compared to one whisper of the beloved.
Admittedly, for us wordy religious types, maintaining silence in order to hear Rumi's whisper can be challenging. And yet consider how your heart might open wider than it has ever opened before if you allow yourself to surrender into a more intimate experience with a beloved presence as you personally understand it. We can discover from the Sufis the healing effects of expanding rather than contracting our hearts so that they are big enough, forgiving enough to hold everything and everybody. And to be sure, this is a challenging endeavor. Can you imagine how it might feel to live with such an expanded heart? Wow. Undoubtedly, this heart expansion may stretch some muscles that have tightened from lack of exercise and may leave you feeling achy as your tender heart core is exposed after being walled off by sorrow or ego or fear or intellectualizing or past hurts. Sometimes it feels wonderful to ache in that way, doesn't it? To feel deeply, to experience union. Hafiz asks, what do sad people have in common? It seems they have all built a shrine to the past and often go there and do strange wailing and worship. What is the beginning of happiness? He says, It is to stop being so religious like that. As Rumi suggests, it could be a total waking up, or as Hafiz tells us, it could very well hasten the beginning of happiness.
With that moon language by Hafiz, admit something. Everyone you see, you say to them, love me. Of course, you do not do this out loud. Otherwise, someone would call the cops. Still, though, think about this great pull in us to connect. Why not become the one who lives with a full moon in each eye, that is always saying with that sweet moon language what every other eye in this world is dying to hear?
Why not indeed? Why not become the one who lives with a full moon in each eye, the one who is always saying with that sweet moon language what every other eye in the world is dying to hear? I wonder, what are you dying to hear, to feel, to let go of, to merge with? Your willful separation from partners or family or friends or community will not comfort you or keep you warm at night or ease your sense of isolation in the world, especially in this lockdown state. It will not erase your fear. It will not lead to contentment. To everyone you see, you say, love me. And why shouldn't you? You deserve to be loved. But first, you must love openly, and you must love yourself for the sacred being of worth and dignity and wonder that you are. In essence, the Sufi path is about loving and nurturing the divine spark within you, as you would nurture a partner or a child, becoming your own beloved in the best sense, not as a form of narcissism, but rather as sacred self-care. This may not lead to the ecstatic trances of whirling dervishes, but it could free you up to be more compassionate and grounded and authentic and at peace. It could open you to a newer, deeper experience of connection with yourself, with the sacred as you understand it, and within your human relationships. Salman Rushdie has warned in his article that by moving farther and farther away from its heart, Islam has become its own enemy. Too often we become our own adversaries as well. When we alienate ourselves from the inner resources we possess for turning our lives towards joyfulness. Many of us have the ingredients we need for a feast, and yet we fast, even when it isn't Ramadan. Hafiz understands this, and so I will give him the last word. Salam, blessed be, and amen.
You have all the genius to build a swing in your backyard for God. That sounds like a hell of a lot more fun. Let's start laughing, drawing blueprints, gathering our talented friends. I will help you with my divine lyre and drum. Hafiz will sing you 1,000 words you can take into your hands like golden saws, silver hammers, polished teakwood, strong silk rope. You carry all the ingredients to turn your existence into joy. mix them, mix them.
Hello, please join me in singing the oneness of everything. Far beyond the grasp of hands, or light to meet the eye, past the reaches of the mind, there find the key to nature's harmony, in an architecture so entwined. Like the birds whose patterns grace the sky and carry all who join in love expanding, the message of peace will rise in flight, taking the weight of the world upon its wings, in the oneness of everything. Peace is in the dance of trees who stir before the first breath of wind is yet perceived. Trust in the song becoming one with the dance, and all mystery can be believed. Songs of lives long past that touch our own are written in the earth ever giving, and now to maintain the harmony gives to us all lives with living, for the oneness of everything. Still we seek to find a truth that we might understand and reduce to terms defined. Vast and immeasurable time and space, also overwhelmingly designed. Oh, passing years, just might I know the faith that winters in the heart, to be reborn in spring, to hear and to feel the pulse of life enters my soul as a song to sing of the oneness of everything.
Each week, we take part in a free will offering to support the Beacon community and our community partners. During this time of virtual worship, we continue to ask for an offering, which you can make through a secure donation on our website, through the Vanco application, or by sending a check to us at our Flagstaff address with offering in the note. We appreciate your financial support of Beacon Unitarian Universalist Congregation now more than ever and at other times of year. And thank you. We also come together typically at the end of our service and hold hands and feel the warmth of our community. So I invite you to imagine that, since we aren't together in the same room, and we wouldn't probably be holding hands if we were because of safety guidelines. But imagine holding hands with this community. If you're new to us, we hope that you will become more involved with Beacon, even though we are not meeting in the building. The heart and spirit of our community is never closed, and we are holding hands virtually because we are Beacon, always connected. And now, please join me in the benediction that appears on your screen. Go out into the world in peace, have courage, hold on to what is good, return to no person evil for evil, strengthen the faint-hearted, support the weak, help the suffering, honor all beings. May you stay well and healthy. Amen.
A whisper of peace moving through the land. Allah will surely run to us if we hold out our hand. A word of hope, a call to every woman and man. A light until the end of time, this is Al-Islam. A whisper of peace moving through the land. Allah will surely run to us if we hold out our hand. A word of hope, a call to every woman and man. A light until the end of time, this is Al-Islam. A whisper of peace moving through the land. Allah will surely run to us if we hold out our hand. A word of hope, a call to every woman and man. A light until the end of time, this is Al-Islam. A whisper of peace moving through the land. Allah will surely run to us if we hold out our hand. A word of hope, a call to every woman and man. A light until the end of time, this is Al-Islam. A whisper of peace moving through the land. Allah will surely run to us if we hold out our hand. A word of hope, a call to every woman and man. A light until the end of time, this is Al-Islam. A light until the end of time,